Knowing and understanding our purpose is so much more simple than most of us make it out to be. I promise. This took me so long to understand. It took me so long to really internalize the simplicity of it. But that's why I want to create this video. So maybe what I've gone through and how I figured out my purpose could really be of help of somebody who feels lost a lot. Because one thing about not knowing your purpose, this little straw is a paid actor, I see. But one thing about not really knowing your purpose or being too in tune with it is it makes you feel a lot more lost than you are. It makes you feel so much more disconnected than you really are. And overall, it feels like you're just winging life. Like you're just kind of here and you're not really living with real purpose. You're not really living with real impact. You're not really moving with any sense of direction. And I think for humans, that's a very difficult thing because it's in our nature to have a goal and go after it and steadily work toward it. But what happens when we don't know what goal we're working toward? Like what happens when we don't have a target we're trying to hit? I think that's when anxiety worsens, when depression worsens, and all those things. So for me, I started to look at purpose very simply. I stopped looking at myself as this special and unique being. Of course we are, but this is what I mean. You're not special, okay? You're not special and you're not unique. By that I mean the specialness and the uniqueness goes away because everyone has that je ne sais quoi. Everyone has that one thing about them or that thing about them that is just out of this world. We all have that. So the fact that it's in every single person takes away from its rareness, right? So it's not a rarity, even though you are distinct, but it's not a rarity for you to have a different quality or this amazing quality, right? So let's start there. Let's humble ourselves just a little bit and you'll see where I'm going. So I started to think about that and not lowering myself, but in a way connecting myself more to humans because we're all just a reflection of one another when we really look at it, right? We all have certain kinds of wants. We all have certain kinds of needs. We all have certain kinds of dislikes. We're much more alike than we are not alike. And that's when you can start to see yourselves in others. So when you start from that perspective, or like I did, I started to say, okay, well, if everybody's special, then that could also mean that our purpose in each and every one of us can be very similar as well. So when I started to look at purpose as something that we have as a collective, it really took me out of the individualistic kind of mindset. And by that, I mean impact. The only word that came to my mind was impact. I looked at purpose as one of two or three things that I'm about to mention. Your purpose is either something that you didn't have when you grew up and want to provide for others. It could also be something that you're really passionate about, that you've always done well, and you've always had that inkling in, maybe ever since you were a kid or you were a teenager. You always loved fighting for justice. You've always loved caring for people. You've always loved research. You've always loved technology. One thing about purpose is it leaves clues. And one thing about purpose is it's very consuming. Like it's part of your whole being. It's part of your makeup. It's who you are, right? So the first one is you either were a certain type of way and you needed someone to be a certain type of way and they weren't. So for example, you grew up and you needed love, or you grew up and you needed validation. So now you want to make sure you give young women validation, or you give young men validation, or whatever it is you were missing, right? Or there's something you've always been passionate about that's been deep down in you. That could be your purpose. And then the last one is one where you feel as though you can have such a huge leadership ability among people, right? Maybe you're a great organizer, or you're a great, I guess you're a great organizer. You're someone who can really pull things together like no one else can, right? You have that certain thing about you that really helps you feel fulfilled. And I found that within that territory, within that region, our purpose lurks, right? And it's all about impact. It usually has something to do with helping others, right? Giving someone something, whether it's our time, our advice, our expertise, but it's usually about service. Purpose, the underlying theme of all the two things I've said, two, maybe three things I said, the underlying things of that is service. In some way we want to serve. And also next to that is expression. In some ways we want to express, right? We're born with a voice. We're born with feelings. We're born with something that we'd like to be seen. Not for validation purposes, that's different. But be seen because it's truly us. And it's like you wonder why it's so hard for you to pursue your purpose, or it's so hard for you to be on your path. First, you have to ask yourself before any of this, How true and how authentic am I being about who I am, what I want, what I require, and what I want out of life, right? So if you're the type who kind of kids yourself like a lot of us and say, oh, I'm doing great, I'm happy, I'm good where I'm at, like I'm straight, nope, I don't need nothing new, I'm good. If you're like that, I think it would be a lot more difficult, or take you a lot longer to find your purpose and go after it, because you're signaling to the universe, you're signaling to God that I'm good, I don't need nothing else, I'm straight. So you're not really open to the idea of something else coming in and something being more fulfilling, because in some odd way you're married to what does not fulfill you. And I think it starts with honesty. Where are you happy right now? Are you fulfilled right now with what you're doing? And it's okay to not be. Most people aren't, right? Like most people aren't. It's okay to not be. And it's okay to continue doing it too, because it pays the bills. You're important wherever you are. And that makes sense. That's most of our lives. But I would like for you to give some thought to the idea that maybe I'm destined not necessarily for more, but maybe I'm destined for truer, right? Like, let's not look at the pursuit of more as in I need more things, and like from a gluttonous perspective, like you just need so much to be happy. That's not the case. But you do need and have a requirement within yourself to be true, to be authentic. So that way you can live a life fulfilled. I don't see how you could live a fulfilled life, a self-actualized life, when you're not operating in your authenticity. And a lot of our authenticity has to do, what I find, is being rooted in your purpose and answering that call. So I made this video because I want you guys to start to simplify your purpose. It's not that deep. I promise it's not that deep. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to spend years backpacking and going to different countries and doing this and trying to figure it out. It's very simple. It's just one of 2 or 3 things that's your purpose, right? Either you're going to provide something you never got, or you're going to provide something that you really need, or you're going to provide the platform for people to do those things, right? And each of your purposes somehow, if you think about it, can sit in that. For me, I'm making a YouTube channel to help people, right, go back to their purest self. I have a Gem&Juice series where I'm dropping gems before I go to the gym while I drink my juice. So it's about health, mental wellness, right? Things that I want people to thrive in, something that I had to work on myself, right? Something I had to work on and get right and align within myself, so that way I have something of value to share with you guys. And I feel like from that space is where I found my purpose. But the underlying theme, like I said earlier, is impact. And it's intricately related to my life and how I live it, right? Because I'm actually like this in real life. Like, even if I didn't press record, I'd still be doing this. I would still be juicing. I would still be on my way to the gym. But now I just press record to do it. So that's how I know it's my purpose. I feel energized when I'm done with these videos rather than depleted. I feel like, woo, maybe if this reached 1 person or 2 people, I served today. Like, I lived my purpose and I lived it fully. If today is my last day, I did my thing. I lived and operated in my purpose because I gave something. I was of service somewhere. And the bottom line of service, of impact. So I'm not saying that you're not special. I don't want you to take that from this video. I'm not saying that your purpose isn't extremely unique or whatever. But I do want you to give thought to the idea that you've possibly been making something much more complex that is actually very simple. And when you boil it down to this, it's so much easier to move forward in that, whatever it is that your purpose is. It's so much easier to move forward. It kind of frees you in a way, because it takes off that pressure that you put on yourself that's unnecessary to figure something out. You don't have to figure anything out. All you got to do is think, right? Like, all you got to do is think, what have you gravitated to in life? What is something that you can't go a day without doing? Okay, you don't have anything of that. What lights you up? What gives you an emotional charge or emotional reaction when you see it? When you see someone doing this on TV, or you see someone doing this in your face and it makes you feel wonderful, what is that? What is that person doing that makes you feel like that? Because why would it give you a charge? Why is it charged? Or why does it make you emotional? When I say emotional, I'm not necessarily talking about crying, but why does it elicit some sort of reaction in you that feels wonderful? That's because it is you. You're experiencing yourself through your eyes and through looking at someone or something else. So it would be remiss of us not to pay attention to that and say, maybe I'm having such a visceral kind of reaction to this because something that person has or did or said is resonating with me deeply. even with things that have hurt you, whether it's a mother figure, a father figure, a caregiver, something that they didn't do, something that they took away, something that they never provided you, and it hurt you deeply. Now that's your story. That's a part of you. And you can make sure in some way that people don't ever have to feel that feeling, or you can make sure your kids never feel like that. That's part of your purpose, right? So let's just look at ourselves as very human, very basic, very primitive. And I think when we look at the world from that vantage point, it makes it much easier to realize how we can help the collective, or how we can be of service to the collective. Because essentially that's what we're here to do. We're here to live interdependently with one another. We need each other. And in some way, somehow, we're all meant to be a productive citizen of whatever community we're in. And I think this is a pretty good baseline for you to figure out from here. I'm not saying I got it all figured out, but for me, it's definitely worked. And for me, I think maybe you can use it as a baseline. So let me know what you think down below in the comments. Remember, you are not alone. You are not lost. You just need to get back to hearing and get back to your spirit. And once you do that, things in your life will flow much more easily. So if you enjoyed this video, do not forget to subscribe and comment down below. I'm very curious to see what your thoughts are on how you should go about finding a purpose and what your purpose actually is. I'll be excited to talk to you guys, and I will be talking to you tomorrow. See you soon.